3, 2, 1. Welcome back, everybody, to the Strategy Sprints podcast. I'm your host, Simon Severino. My guest today is the CEO at Online Degree. After graduating from college with an overwhelming amount of debt, he was determined to change how students embark on their college education. So he founded OnlineDegree.com with a purpose-driven mission: make higher education more accessible and affordable for everyone. Welcome, everybody, Grant Aldrich.
Thank you, man. Thank you for having me.
So cool to have you here. And you have brought very relevant stuff to discuss: why we should know ourselves and why self-awareness is important if we want to have a healthy business running and not burn out. But before we go there, what are you currently creating?
Yeah, so I'm on a mission, a monumentous mission to make higher education affordable for everybody. And so, what we've done up to date was really create a alternative to the modern community college system. So right now, someone in the United States could go online, get started in 60 seconds without applications or entrance exams, and begin taking college level courses towards their degree, figuring out what they want to learn, which could receive credit towards their degree, saving them time and money. And here's the key thing: we do it all for free. And so that was a very monumentous shift in bringing a very different model to education. And in that same vein of making college more affordable, the next big thing that we're working on is, in addition to what we've done on the degree side, we're going to do on the certification side. So now, as millions of people are out of work and they want to be able to get actionable skills to find new jobs in this emerging marketplace, we're going to be launching a massive platform for them to be able to find the right certification program for them at the lowest cost possible and the fastest possible, so they can get the skills in that new job they're looking for.
How can you make that happen?
Well, I'll tell you, it's not easy, because in this space, it's higher education is highly regulated, and so unlike a lot of other different spaces where you can launch with an MVP rather rapidly, and in this case, you have to go a lot further in terms of looking at the regulatory environment. How are you delivering education? It's a serious thing, so it's not for the faint of heart. But yeah, in this context with the platform, really what I saw was that for certifications, it's a huge value to someone as opposed to going a degree path. So for example, some people have to go get a degree, and that means maybe they need to be a teacher or an accountant, something that necessitates that you get a degree. And in other cases, they use it because they want to move up with work or make themselves more marketable for their job, and a degree definitely does that. But in many cases, people don't need a degree. What they need is some actionable skills training and something so they can get a job that pays very well. And the beauty of going on the certification route is that, unlike 4 years and the expense of a degree, we're going to make sure that it's under a few $1,000s and with easy payments, and will only take 3 or 4 months for you to be finished. So that's a huge shift in now making education affordable for everybody and in every kind of path that they want to take.
In which maturity stage are you? Are you at product validation, market validation, beyond?
Yeah, we did a test, and it went incredibly well. And so right now we are at we're building the MVP. And so right now we're getting really close, but we're not exactly there yet. So I'm hoping by the second half of this year or the beginning of the next quarter, we could be there.
Beautiful. And if people want to be part of the journey, do you have a newsletter or something that they can subscribe to and see the journey?
Yeah, a lot of people just follow us and what we're doing because they like, they genuinely appreciate our mission to make higher education affordable. So I would just say check out the project. It's onlinedegree.com. And they can also follow me on LinkedIn. Just type in Grant Aldrich, and there aren't that many on there. And yeah, I would love to have them follow me or reach out.
I'm curious. You can pick only one person when everybody's zigging. This person is zagging. We call it the strategy award. Who do you nominate?
One of my favorite entrepreneurs is really unknown to most of the world and rarely gets spoken about in Silicon Valley. And his name is Marcus Friend. And Marcus Friend was the founder of plentyoffish.com. And I got to know him because of my last company, I mean, not personally, but know of him. My last startup was acquired by IAC, Interactive Core. And his company had also been acquired by them as well. And I started to really dive into the story. And this guy created a $500 million platform with hundreds of millions of people utilizing it. I mean, imagine the tech resources that go into have a dating platform where millions of people are using it every single day. Massive amounts of data, massive amounts of transactions, customer service. He did it all by himself. One man did everything and built that entire company. That guy is my hero.
Beautiful. Looking forward to meet him. And
Yeah.
yeah, what are the three books that shaped you most?
Yeah, I will preface that for me personally, I really like to hone my sense of the macro trends. So to steal a line from Wayne Gretzky, to know where the puck's going as opposed to where it's at currently. And I think that if you're really able to train your mind to look for the macro, you're always able to operate effectively in your day to day. And so one of the books that was very profound was a book called The Third Wave by Alvin Toffler. And Alvin Toffler, is, to provide some context, is a futurist who is very famous for writing a book called Power Shift. And The Third Wave talks about the information age and how things are changing and how trends that would seem odd are actually very predictable. The first wave being the agricultural revolution, second wave being the industrial revolution, the third wave, the information age. It's a very cool book. Another one that I would recommend is that had a really big impact on me was a book called Buzz Marketing by Mark Hughes. And what was amazing about Mark's book was that I think that he codified marketing into one thing that is the goal, and that is to get people talking about your brand. And so that to me, because when you ask someone what is marketing, I think that you're going to get a million different answers to that. And they may not all be wrong, but you have to really focus your efforts on what are you doing and what's the goal. And that's what his was you have to get people talking about it. And then his book goes into all these different cool ways to get marketing without spending money, get people talking. How do you get the buzz? And I thought it was profound. And I've utilized that for our company. We don't do any marketing. And we've been able to get an immense amount of groundswell. So I would highly recommend that book. And then finally, one of the books that I think was an eye opener for me when I was very young was Keith Ferrazzi's book, Never Eat Alone. And then what that book kind of shows you is that you have to make networking and helping people and just wanting to help people just part of your daily life. No one wants to be networked with, and that's lame. And so just being real and just always being willing to help people. And I think that's awesome. So I think those are the three good ones.
And I can imagine right now listeners saying, oh, how does he do it? No marketing spend and people talk about his brand. What are some things that you want to share?
If I was going to give you one secret that I found that of now, because this is to give some also context for the listeners, is that this is my third or technically fourth startup. And I've taken a lot of lessons as I've now come to this one. And on this one of the things that I felt was missing from my prior life was the satisfaction of going to work and really loving what you do. In a previous life, I was working in the pharmaceutical industry, and there's nothing wrong with that, but you don't skip to work all day getting ready to make pharmaceutical companies money. So this time I wanted to create a mission-focused business. And my mission first was to make higher education affordable for everyone. And I really just started with that mission and had to create the solution based on that. But in creating a mission-based company, I didn't realize this, but I solved so many of the problems that entrepreneurs deal with at launch. And I'll give you an example. I had come into this industry knowing nobody, changing industries mid-career. And so you would think it would be impossible to reach out and to begin to get partnerships at a good pace. But if you've got a great mission and a mission that taps into something that everybody cares about genuinely, they are far more likely to want to help you. So when I would just write someone cold at, let's say, a university and say, look, here's what I'm doing. I'm trying to do this, and I would love to have you help. And people, most of the time, I think in the normal circumstance, would just delete the email or ignore it. They're too busy. But in this case, they paid attention because they wanted to help us. And so that's also helped with the buzz, because the more universities that come on board, that works with the buzz. And people were saying, well, what is this? I'm curious now. Well, what are you guys doing together? And so anyway, now, and then it becomes, it really grows and snowballs past that. So I say that if someone is thinking about becoming a new business or incorporating something into their business now, is to create a mission focus. I could give you lots of examples on why I think it's a winner and solves issues, but that would be a big one.
Beautiful. What did you recently change your mind about?
Yeah, this is a tough one. I think that I've realized that I've really tried to take that Marcus Friend approach, where I want to make sure that I have as few people who are really good, in my mind, tasked with as much as possible, and not to overwhelm people, but because that I think that when you get bloated organizations that are really large, where you task someone narrowly for everything, you lose a lot in that scale. So, but I also think that, to a fault in my own personal side, that it now creates it where a lot of the little tasks that we shouldn't be doing, the core team have been doing. And I want to fix that. So it's, there's no good answer to this. It's always a blend, but I think that's one of the ones I would say.
It's a fine balance.
It is. You don't want to outsource. I mean, you want to be able to outsource a lot of the trivial tasks and the things that you keep your officers, if you will, your executives, tasked on the most important things. But I think that again, you don't want to create that bloat, and that's always what I'm fearful of.
Absolutely. I do my time analysis every day on my iPad. I have my daily flow. I write down what I'm doing. And then on the right side, I have two questions. And one is, which of these tasks should somebody else do because they do it better than me? And the other question is, if I would leave more intentionally and more freely, what else would I do? That's how I review my day every day. And so then every couple of weeks or every couple of months, I look back, I find some patterns, and that's when we do the new hire. But it's not just for fun, but because there is a serious pattern behind it where I see myself not leveraging my time in the best way, and then we consider hiring.
Wow, that's incredibly insightful, because you're right. That one thing, that one box that you fill out, I'm sure gives you the most insight of all of those things every time you go back to review it.
Exactly. And everybody does it in our team. So this is how we find the processes to systemize. We call it systemizing. When we amplify ourselves, it either becomes an automated or semi-automated process, or we hire somebody external, or we hire somebody internal to do that instead of us.
Wow.
But there
I love it.
Reason. And the reason, that's the data. The data comes from, okay, we have found this pattern blocking us in leveraging our time.
Wow, yeah, I love that. I may cite you. I think I'm gonna create that in our daily our daily wrap-ups, and I'm gonna cite it. That's gonna be the Simone.
Yeah, do it. You can download it. It's out there. It's all everything we do is open source. You can do it strategysprints.com/tools and download it and use it with your team. It's really helpful.
Yeah. Okay, very cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And so what's next on your journey? What's the one thing that you would like to move forward coming up with your company?
Yeah, it's really the expansion into the certifications. I mean, there's just We have a real problem on our hands worldwide, but let's just focus on the United States, and that so many people are going to be out of work because of these macro trends. And with COVID has really just accelerated what was already happening in the marketplace, and that the American, the American economy and the American worker were already facing immense pressures on their jobs due to robot automation, right? These things are coming in and taking away jobs, globalization, and of course, the modernization of the economy. So these things I really want to solve. I really want to provide the ability for people to upskill, get the certifications they need, get the new kinds of careers they need, so that we can get more people back to work and people are more happy on a day-to-day basis. I think it's a key piece of making education affordable.
You are pointing to something that I find really relevant. The education system, now we are talking US, but we could talk about really any education system, was broken all the time. And now we are seeing it. And if we think of a post-pandemic, much poorer population in urgent need of jobs, they will think twice if to go the standard path and take a big depth for something that is not really helping them in their real context, getting really forward. And what's your take? What was really broken all the time, but now we are facing it via the pandemic?
Yeah, I think if you went onto the street and you surveyed anybody and asked them, in a perfect world, with no other considerations, would you want a college degree? They would all say yes. But the problem is that when you begin to bring about all of the things that you actually need to do to get that degree and the cost, and you really weigh the cost benefit analysis, it's completely out of whack. And I think it's been like that for a very long time. And so as a result, to your point, I think that people now have just shied away from even taking that first step to get education that they need. And I think the second thing too is that, now in this economy, a degree isn't always the most appropriate. It can be, but it's not always the case. And so, there have not been good options for people to pursue that path as well, because that path is also too expensive. And so I really think it comes down to that cost benefit to help people take that first step. There's a lot of other little factors as well. Like, for example, one of the things that I really wanted to tackle with was to make this education completely online. And again, this is before COVID, because even though with COVID, it seems like it's an absolute necessity, even before that, as a working adult, I don't have time as a parent with a job to leave in the middle of the day 3 times a week to go to school. It's just not feasible. And if you have a university or some school that necessitates that, well, then no one's going to do it. It's just too hard and you're setting people up for failure. So again, all online. And you start to chip away at these impediments for adults, and you create something that is very accessible.
This is the part that is so liberating about this pandemic, that we all knew that things can be done via Zoom, etc. But everybody was like, yeah, but I don't know. And now this is just being accelerated. Now, yeah, our kids are Zooming with their grandpa. So it has broken through that comfort zone. And now everybody's reconsidering, wait a moment, should I really fly for 3 hours there for that meeting if I can do it online? Wait a moment, do I need to sit for 8 hours in one chair and take notes? Really? Is that the best way I'm going to learn something? And so I'm really excited about this. And same as you, I started disrupting it way before March. In January, I said to myself, I will not fly anymore. And I was a frequent flyer. And I said, it must be possible to respect everybody's time, and that everybody can work, learn, and create wherever they are, just with a phone and with a pencil. It must be possible. And it is possible. And So I'm really excited about what you're doing and what is currently being created in the tech space, in the ed tech space, but also pretty much in every tech sector, because it's a lot about real time, and it's respectful.
I
And
mean, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
we had the illusion of many things. We were not seeing how we were enslaved by many things, like the concept of being 8 hours in one room. Why 8 hours? First of all, it's much better to chunk it up in small deep work sessions and then discuss and have a work critique. But first you need to build something, you need to apply, and all these things now that are coming up that we felt were right are now surfacing.
You're totally right. Everything, I mean, what you just said was very profound. And you're right that this has accelerated what needed to happen for us. A great example of that is my son has allergies. And we go every, few months to an allergy doctor. And lately we've been doing it online via Zoom. And how phenomenal that now an industry as archaic as medicine in terms of innovation is now offering that you could just do all these appointments online, which we always could have done. And they were so reluctant to do for, whatever legal reasons, but that they finally gotten around that. And wow, like you said, what a respect for our time. I don't have to drive 2 hours there and back to go to this doctor's appointment. I know it's a phenomenal, and you're right. I mean, that's just one small change. I think what you touched on is even more profound, that, how we work and how we travel and all of these things are taking an immense shift. And you're right. I love it. I love your strategy, by the way. I agree that I don't want to have to fly anymore either. I've got a family, and if you're flying, you're wasting a lot of time, and you're away from them. And I love it.
Yeah, these are all just concepts. This is how you go to the doctor. You spend 2 hours in traffic, then you spend 25 minutes there. You get sick while you wait because it's a petri dish for sickness, and then you get some pills, and then you go home. This is not the only way. There are many ways. If you think of yogic hospitals, they basically put you into the earth for a couple hours in the garden, and they say that's the yogic hospital. So there are many different ways to pursue the impact. And I think it's this thing. In my sector, it was, okay, consulting, executive consulting, that's how you do it. First, you send a big bill. Then you book a flight. Then you manage with their assistants to have a whole boardroom organized. And then you sit there for 8 hours, mainly boring yourself and documenting very precisely the boring discussions. That was the standard in my industry. And so it was wrong from the very first moment. And especially these 8 hours sitting around, which we call workshops, are basically wrong on so many levels. And what we do now with the sprint method is it's in real time. Everybody starts whenever they want, wherever they are, on their phone. They have 16 questions per day if they are a CEO, and they don't want to ask them 3 weeks later in the workshop. They want to ask them now. And they might just need a quick answer or a quick test done together. It takes 10 minutes maybe, but they need maybe 5 during one day. So a much more natural way of working is to do something, then to discuss it with somebody, then to test it with a small market, then to go and play with your kids, then to cook a wonderful real meal instead of going to a cafeteria with your colleagues, then to do some jogging or walk the dog, then again maybe a meeting, then you create again something. It's a much more natural flow.
Oh, I love it. You're right. God, I could only imagine that was, and I bet it was almost impossible to deviate from that norm. prior to what you were doing and maybe prior to COVID, because that's what everybody expected. And that those expectations dictate so much of what when they hire you. That's crazy.
Exactly. You tell this in January to the corporations, and they, oh, no, that's not the way we do things here.
Right.
And now now it's different. Now it's different, and we have many countries and many people who say, "Wow, this is liberating. It's just 60 minutes of Zooming, but then it's much more integrated into my life and into what I need." And I can ask 24/7. I have a question, I ask it right now in my time zone, right now, whenever it fits. And so this is liberating, and the educational space is very similar. The concept about how to take notes, the concept of how to certificate and what to certificate. Are you certificating that I can repeat your content, or that I am capable of thinking, deciding, finding the information, sorting the information in a way that I can create a meaningful contribution to the field?
Well, like you said, I think that, this is these concepts are all changing. And, again, I had no idea about, in your field specifically, and that's fascinating. And I think that, there's so many fields across, every industry, and that, these concepts are now being shifted. And you're right, this is a very exciting time. We haven't really, I think, fully grasped this new world that we live in.
And it keeps evolving, and nobody knows really these tectonic shifts in which direction they will go. So it will stay interesting, definitely. And
I agree. I think right now everybody's thinking that, I think on one side, people think it's all going to go completely back to normal, and I think I think no, I don't think we're ever going to go back to exactly where we were before. I think that, as tragic as this event has been, that a lot of things have shifted us now for the better. I don't think it'll exactly stay how it is now, but I think that the die's been cast now. You can't. All these trends have been accelerated, and I think our world's just going to be better thereafter. In the face of such, in the face of such a tragedy.
I find it really fascinating to see that what was normal is now questioned by so many people, because we have time to feel, to introspect, to question ourselves and what we are committed to. And you see all these liberating aspects. You see also, like in the US, also the dark side of that, of the shadows of our society coming up. And also there is a core of very legitimate questioning of things. I don't agree with the way it's being manifested right now, but this also comes from questioning things, and so it's really interesting that right now many things that we as social norms around you right now, social norms are shifting radically.
You're right. And by the way, I think that you and I could probably talk a lot longer and agree on many of these things, because I think I agree with what you're alluding to. And so, you're right. There is that side of it.
And I hope you stay safe during the next 5-6 days. They are going to be quite important. And please come back to the show soon and report about the growth of your business. And thank you for sharing your journey with us.
Thank you so much for having me, man. Honestly, I love your show, and appreciate you having me.
Avoid trying to do thousands of things that doesn't work. We have 274 templates for your business success. Reach your ambitious goals with one-on-one